I'm here with my old, I think that says Letz Buhr Grinder. That's an amazing machine, built probably in the 1920s perhaps. And I brought a tool here to help me get this contraption open. This little burr mill is for small corn and small grains. I don't remember what it looked like inside. This, of course, is a grease cap. If you're familiar with those, you simply fill that cap full of grease. Somebody has added grease Circa to it. That might have been there to fill with a gun. This is an amazing machine, and I want to show you a little bit about it, at least what I've figured out anyway. Dad quit using this many years ago. We'll come back around and open that up. Here's where the auger went. You would put your grain into this hopper, and it would feed with that auger looking thing into the mill, and then it dropped out the bottom there. I don't know if that was for filling a pail or how exactly that deal worked. There is a chute. Now there is a chute coming over, maybe coming over to here, this hole here. But it had a second feature. Back then they didn't have baled hay. They had their hay put up in shocks. I don't have anything to show you there, but this was the hay chopper. And it actually still turns after sitting here for 70 years. But these knives were hardened steel, of course, and you just, it would chop the hay, and as the hay got fine enough, it would keep chopping until it went down through this screen. And then there is a, I can't tell, okay, it pulls it over to this side too. And then it comes into this blower. This blower is stuck. I remember turning this when I was a lot younger. Excuse me. Yeah, and the blower was run by this pulley, which was a belt come off of this big pulley. Now this biggest pulley had a flat belt going either to a stationary engine or to the a tractor. You may have had they may have had a small International or John Deere or John Deere, something of that nature. And the most amazing thing I found on this is it had its own grinding wheel for keeping the knife sharpened or whatever else you needed to sharpen. And I thought that was rather amazing and rather unique. Oh, I see it had a little flat belt back here that come over to here to run the little grinding wheel. Now I'm sure there's no modern grinders with their own sharpening stone. I guess there are some corn choppers that self-sharpen themselves, but I don't know how those work. This here is not part of the grinder. It's actually for mounting to a wagon or an implement and pulling the implement with horses. Now here's a little this just feeds the little rattle chain, just feeds the shock from the top and holds it steady as it goes through the grinder over here. I should have cleaned this off a little bit. This stuff's been here so long I don't remember what it is. And then this is the main feeder chain here. And it goes out to here. So two people would normally feed this, one from the left and one from the right, because this would hold a couple of shocks at a time very easily. But now we're going to go back over to the Burr mill. I was interested in actually replicating this Burr mill, find the right hot plant. My gosh, here's my wrench here. I knew I'd left it somewhere. Put that up there. So this still turns, but I wasn't able to get this open. I'll try that right now. It's been bent. Now, there we go. This is not quite the right wrench for this job, but of course when it was new it didn't need a wrench at all. So I try and preserve this machine. Put this up here. It's supposed to rain tonight. It definitely needs to do just that. Extremely dry weather. Went into town today for a little bit. The back country roads here are a mess. Just miles of dust behind you. Okay. Yeah, I need both hands here. I'm gonna shut this off a minute, then we'll be back. Well, after finally getting the wing nuts and the two nuts and the spring off, I discovered this is some type of tightener, I believe. And this is coming out here. Yeah, it's coming out right here. So I put some oil on it, some spray lube. I'm going to tap it back in. I have no idea how this thing drives. It actually drives from the big pulley over here, and so this little gearbox here must be some type of attachment mechanism. It'll be very interesting to see what is inside this box, because this is actually pulling apart. However, the auger in here is still staying firm where it was at, so it drives from the other side too. But the grinder mechanism is in here. It's a Burr grinder. I'm going to keep tapping on this, but I'm going to go back in, tap it back in now that it's lubed, and start out again with it. Okay, here it is, laying in its new home for a little while. This has to be some type of tensioner for the mill. Now here's the main shaft. Probably has to be coming from the big pulley on the other side. I can't tell if there's any, well, there can't be oil in here. Okay, this thing is some type of huge bearing, I believe. You don't see those too often anymore. I'm going to go ahead and take this bolt out. I had to straighten these. These apparently are all thread bolts. They seem to go on forever. I'm going to have to find a socket perhaps to get these loose. Now we're gaining. Now if you ever find yourself in a spot where you need a lot of rust removal, this stuff here, the last can was 3 1/4, and it goes on kind of foamy. Of course I don't sell it, but it's not too bad of stuff for that price. All right, I got the burrs or the nuts off of those bolts. That was a fun job. This has started to separate over here. I don't recall what's in it. I think I had it apart. If I did, it was 40 years ago. Now let me make another comment here. This little Burr grinder Burr mill should be in pretty good shape. Back in the day, and I'd kind of forgotten, most farmers would put their milo and possibly their corn up on the stalk. They would use what was called a binder, which gathered about a foot round bundle of material, crop. Then it'd throw a piece of twine around it. Then the operator would dump it off. Now, if you had a couple horses pulling your binder, that was fairly simple operation. If you had a tractor on it, then you needed a tractor driver as well. All right, here we go. I have my adjustment tool here. Yeah, that whole thing is coming. These all threads are bent pretty bad now. I'll have to replace those someday. Claw hammers are not just for nails, you know that, right? Okay. Wow. There we go. Yes, there's springs here. That big contraption we took off definitely holds this more tight in order to increase the grinding action. This little mill would have been to finalize the size of the grain for small calves and hogs and whoever couldn't eat the haylage. Oh my goodness, what is this thing? All right, I'm gonna have to get something and bend this back together and then back out. I'll be back when this cover's off. Look at that. I have no idea what that is in there. But I think it's locked up. What do you think? Well, till next time. All right. Got the cover off and found a rather antique wasp nest. Now I would have assumed that this cover pushed in on this piece, but I don't see how it does that. So this big giant bearing must have like a throwout bearing type of thing in it. Kind of a combination type of thing that may pull out on the shaft, or push in on the shaft rather. Now we're going to take our adjustment tool. Okay, we have this pin here, goes all the way through. So this is going to move. I think there's can't tell if that's a cotter pin or not. Yes, there's a cotter pin. Okay, what we have happening here, I don't know how this holds tighter or looser, unless it's pulling it may be trying to pull this inside piece out, would be a good guess. It may be trying to move here. I don't see how it would do that connected to all this other stuff, unless the whole thing was designed to move. Okay, what's happening here? Yeah, I don't think that was supposed to happen at all. Yeah, that's probably why this thing is sitting here. cotter pin out, and we'll be back. My favorite weather front's coming in again this afternoon. Now, last night after I quit, one of the biggest winds I've ever known to hit here did hit. And not enough rain to even worry about. So I think that's true of a lot of areas across the country. I'll be back in a little bit. That was one big pin in there. I'm still trying to determine how this pushed together to do a finer grind. But that's on there pretty good. Started to move a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna have to free this up. Obviously that slips on there somehow. I just don't know how. All right, we got a storm moving in. This is the reveal of what's in this thing. It's very similar to the other little video did on the old #2 bell. It's on the same principle. It is not a hammer mill. It is a Burr mill. I actually had to bust this off with this splitting mold. Alright, then put this. There we go. Got it. So you have two old and rough surfaces. A little pattern in them that rub together. It's all the way around. To grab stuff and set it right on there. And here's the feed over here. I still am not understanding how the tightening system works. Whoa. All right, now it's becoming much clearer. Somehow these bolts actually pull on this piece. I'm not sure how that works either. There it is. Out of 1910, 20 leads. I'm sure it's leads. Burr mill. Now later I'll be showing the difference between the Burr mill and the hammer mill. If you want to see the old CS Bell Burr mill I have, it's a hand crank model.